Hello, hello, and welcome to the Magical Witchy World TV. I am Star Ravenhawk.
And I am Rhonda Allen. Welcome back this week.
Yay. And tonight we are proud to welcome Diana Rajchel to the Magical Witchy World TV.
Yes.
Hi.
Hi, Diana. Welcome.
Hey, Diana, welcome.
So happy to have you here with us tonight.
Glad to be here.
Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us. It is Friday night. We're here at Magical Witchy World TV. I want to introduce everyone to you. So I'm going to read through your bio so everyone learns all about your background. So, Diana Rajchel is an internationally published author, city priestess, and teacher of the magical arts. Her work includes hex twisting, counter magic spells for the irritated witch, and urban magic, a guide for the city witch, along with several periodical publications. She is regularly among the featured authors in Llewellyn's annuals. Her books have been officially translated into 4 languages. She teaches online via Wicked Grounds in San Francisco and Elements in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Diana is a pantheistic animist, and much of her teaching underpins the development of a relationship with spirit, deities, and spirits. She is co owner of the San Francisco Bay Area metaphysical startup, Golden Apple. In addition, she runs a paranormal and spiritual consultancy with her partner, Cinti, in Kalamazoo, Michigan. She can be reached at dianarachel.com and goldenapplemetaphysical.net. And we will be streaming those across the screen during our interview tonight. So thank you again
Yay.
for joining us, Diana.
Yeah, looking forward to this conversation. Okay, so our first question is, and we ask this to everyone, like over the years, we kind of go through the times where we call ourselves different names
Mm-hmm.
or titles. And I'm kind of wondering, what was it like throughout those years, the names you called yourself, and what do you call yourself presently or presently? Sorry.
Okay, and we're talking about in terms of spiritual titles, correct? Or
Um, yeah.
okay,
Mhm.
so I suppose it started with priestess because, like a lot of people, I started with Wicca when I started realizing that as much as there were several things in Christianity I truly appreciated, it was not the right fit. So I'm a plus size woman. You know how it is when people are always trying to squeeze you into stuff that is just not meant for you.
Yeah.
That would became my feeling with Christianity, and then over time, unfortunately, it turned into my feeling with eclectic Wicca, where I just needed something bigger. And it's not saying that Wicca is small or narrow. It was every religion and every tradition is designed to have certain constraints because this is what keeps your head from exploding.
Mm,
And
Mhm,
there
mhm.
is something about me where I just want to see how far I can get before.
yeah.
This is not for everyone. I do not recommend this lifestyle. Uh, and even though, and I realized that priestess, even though it wasn't connected to Wicca anymore, there was still something that marked me as that. So I've learned over time that faith isn't really something you choose or don't choose to have. It's an energy stream you can connect to or not, depending on
Mhm.
your mental, physical, and spiritual health.
Right.
And so there are times in your life when you can tap into faith, and there are times in your life where you just can't because you have to care for yourself a different way.
Okay. So what do you
Love
call
that.
yourself? Like a witch, Wiccan?
Yeah,
What is the word?
it depends on what I'm doing, and it depends on who I'm working with because I
Ah,
try to step outside of religion to meet people where they're at to help them. So, like Rhonda, you probably know Michigan is haunted as all hell,
Mhm, mhm.
and
Yeah.
those spirits do not care what you're praying to. Which
Talk.
means that I've had to meet Christians and Muslims and Indigenous people where they're at on their terms.
mm,
So
Mhm,
insisting on
mhm.
a title seems kind of obstructive to helping the people that need help.
Okay.
But for myself, between myself and my spirits and my ancestors, if I'm doing city work, I am in a priestess role. If
Okay.
I'm doing community work, I am a spirit worker. If I am in my kitchen
Excellent.
doing the things I do to keep myself happy, I am a witch.
Okay.
Well said.
Okay.
Love
Very cool.
that.
Love
Love that. Yeah, that's really interesting. And that's it. Meeting people where they're at and using the language that they can connect with and relate to, that is really important. Yeah, I like that. Thank you. So now that we've looked at that piece, let's go backwards in time a little bit and just understand a little bit more about what brought you to this world. What was it that was it something that you just acknowledged this is who I am? Or was it some particular incident that something happened and opened the doorways for
And
it?
so, I mean, it took me a good 45 years to figure out I was queer, so I may never have a good, clear answer to this or when. Everything's a progress.
Yes.
So, I think what started for me was on the psychic side. So, I'm Polish American, but I'm also half WASP. So, and for people that might not know what that means, WASP is white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. So the white
Mhm.
people that did the worst stuff, except my family was on the poor side of it. So we managed to not do the absolute worst stuff, but it was still pretty bad. Um, and so on the WASP side of it, because my dad decided to convert to my mother's version of Christianity because he didn't want his daughters raised in the Catholic Church, which is
Okay.
really unusual for somebody born in 1934.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
He was ahead of his time there.
very ahead of, I'm
Yeah.
still very surprised by what he got, but he was thinking, I'll give him that. And there was a lot of, there's no such thing as ghosts. There's, it was this weird, rationalistic yet superstitious thing that we're still sorting out the cognitive dissonance from Christianity. And I consider myself to be one of the
Yeah.
people that have had relatively little trauma from it compared to most people in the United States. Um,
Wow.
but there was
Yeah.
still that I was seeing things and being told I wasn't seeing the things I was seeing. So I was being taught to question myself and not trust myself all the time.
Yeah.
And well, my dad was quietly kind of like shooing my mom to the side and quietly encouraging things just a little bit, but it was the way he handled a lot of things. Was like during one teenage incident where, again, surprisingly forward thinking, especially for a man, especially from his era, was finding me after the movies after a date and just looked at me and said, rebutton your shirt before your mother sees that, and left it.
Wow.
And that was pretty much how it was about the magic and witchcraft too.
Okay. Right. Right. Wow.
Which is remarkable when I think about it, especially
Yeah.
Yes.
given how constrictive my mom could be. Um, but I was starting to find aspects of mystical Christianity. I figured out that Psalms worked
Mhm.
really great as spells before anybody told me they were supposed to be used that way. And
Mhm.
so I realized there was something to this. There was something to things I was seeing, but there was also a lot of stigma that I didn't quite understand. And then I got into
Mhm.
college where I started having a little more clarity with my anxiety and everything else. And I found Lori Cabot's Love Magic.
Ah. Yeah.
Yes, this was my first witchcraft book, is of course the one you could get yourself in the most
Wow.
trouble with, because she tells you really how to do it right. And I'm like, oh, I was
Yes.
already doing this, this, and this, but there was also a philosophical aspect to it that I got curious about, because I was in one of the Christian churches where there are Christian dominionists and there are Christian stewardship.
Ah.
Stewardship is
Mm.
one where there's an environmental focus, there is taking care of people, there is lifting people up. Of course, they're the ones that are modest, quiet, and not obnoxious, so we don't hear about them because people aren't having the trauma from them as much.
Right.
Um, and I noticed that this took it a step further from stewardship to, yeah, nature matters, which I know people are going to go, well, where's the urban
Mhm.
come in? And that's a whole other conversation about de-Christianizing your thinking that snuck in on you.
Wow. Right.
Um,
Right.
but I was looking at that and then I was like, okay, this stuff works. Clearly there's some other work I need to do. I wasn't going, oh no, because it was like attracting trolls. It was, there's some work I need to do on myself because I'm drawing the fucked up that matches me. Pardon my language.
No, it's okay.
Mhm. No worries. No
Yeah.
worries.
And then I got curious and I found Paul Barrel's A Wiccan Bardo, which was a descriptive
Mhm.
Lothlorien tradition. I still have it. And even though Wicca, again, it's not quite the suit that fits, I still cherish that.
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah.
what helped me it gave me a way through to something that finally made sense to me,
Right.
because the we're supposed to rule over it never made sense to me,
Right.
because because domination outside of a consensual thing doesn't
Right.
work. It's not sustainable.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not taking care of your things, and taking care of your things includes your community and your people and the people and your neighbors, which is anyone who's different from you.
Right. Right.
And
Right.
it was both mind blowing and like, no, this is the one that makes sense to me.
Right.
And
And
so then, like,
Mhm.
okay.
and this was in the 90s, so got into the cyber covens and did the eclectic thing for a while. Had some drama where people were trying to tell me what I was and wasn't allowed to write when it wasn't stuff I was writing for a coven. And I'm like, yeah, we're done.
Yeah.
Because now we're getting into domination shit again, and I ain't having that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well said.
It
And
wasn't
so
consensual.
it's
Yes.
consensual. And, you know, these are also my people, but consent is an important
Big deal.
conversation that applies to so much more than sexuality.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely.
Everything. Everything.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Even sometimes with spirits. So, yeah.
Okay. So that kind of segues into I want to find out from your point of view, what does it mean to be a witch? Not anybody else's point of view, just yours. Let
From
me
my
know.
point of view, being a witch is, well, I mean, there is no, being a witch from my point of view is an anthropological phenomenon.
Okay.
And so I see the two spiritual anchors in any culture is the witch and the shaman, and they are different things. And I do come from, my partner is a Finnish and Sami shaman. That is their background, and they have been named a shaman in the formal way. This is not like, what is that called? That core shamanism. It is not the same thing at all.
Interesting.
And
Yeah.
so, and it's funny because they are so rigid about that, but I'm very flexible about what a witch is in a way that can be very unpopular. But to me, the witch is the person who is, it can be done just individually for the family, for the home, where it is just, they live in the material world, but they have a relationship with the spiritual world.
Okay.
Mhm.
They kind of
Mhm.
walk between the
Mhm.
worlds a bit, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Where there is just something that, and for me, the spiritual, because I was born with second sight and had no help with it,
Mhm.
um, the spiritual and the material are so close together. I sometimes forget that other people can experience a difference that I
Yeah.
don't.
Right. Right.
Yes.
That
Like,
is
I
true.
remember my first out of body journey, I remember was in my crib, and I still remember it. This is apparently
Wow.
not normal.
That is amazing.
um,
Yeah,
That
that's
that is awesome
incredible.
though. That is awesome.
yeah,
What
Yeah.
a trip.
it was a heck of a trip. Apparently, I can explain it to
Literally.
quite a lot of people who
I
would
know,
not
right?
know. The shaman is sometimes, here's the tricky thing with the shaman, is sometimes the shaman is the intercessor for the community.
Mhm.
No, the
Mhm.
shaman is always the intercessor of the community, but sometimes the community
Yeah.
is not the one that lives in the material world.
Interesting.
Sometimes, like my partner, they are a healer, they do a lot for the community, but from living with them, it is much more about the spirits communicating to the community than the other way around.
Right. Right.
It's just, yeah,
That's
Well, that's good. That's
that's
teaching the
heavy work.
community from the spirit world.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah.
That's heavy
Yeah.
work though.
It is
For
very
real.
heavy work, and
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
some caretaking involved on both sides, and we're raising kids, so
Right.
that makes
Good.
it even more complicated. But
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, you've shared a great deal about the path that has led you to where you are today and what you're doing right now. Tell us or share a bit more about how you incorporate your magic or your practice in your daily life, or how is it a part of your life at this point?
in a lot of ways, it is my life, in a way that sometimes I wish I could compartmentalize the way a lot of people are still able
Mm,
to.
Yeah.
mhm, mhm.
Right now, it is, my home is my hub for community connection, in that
Okay, good.
people come over for dinner, but then it does turn into spiritual counseling. And I know right now I had to post a
Mhm.
GoFundMe. The shop may be closing down. There is a shop in town where I go and give readings. I don't make much money from those readings. I go there, and this is part of my city priestess work to connect to Kalamazoo. And because Kalamazoo is
Yeah.
giving me a safe harbor until I can return to San Francisco after my kids are grown.
Yes.
And part of that service is I will go there, and it is not, and again, for me, everything I do is part of some relationship to spirit, cooking a meal, going for a walk, writing, all of it.
Yeah.
And so when I
Yeah.
am there, that is partly my activism. So I am there for, and people will come in that are not pagan at all. I would say the majority of my clients aren't. And it can be people struggling with the INS, people that are having
Mm.
housing instability. And there's a lot of that in Kalamazoo. People that either don't or have just immigrated here and can't find their way through our systems because they're a mess,
Right.
or
Yeah.
people that are afraid to talk to anybody else or just don't even know how to talk about it.
Right.
And so my service is just that one person at a time, helping them sort out just enough to get to their next step.
Mm.
And so,
Right.
like, if you go into my reader's
That's
space, I have
interesting.
pamphlets that a local senator provides me that's like, here's your housing rights, here's education opportunities, here's some stuff if you're just getting out of high school. And I have this stuff in addition to the reading stuff, because what I do is it's also going, okay, here's a plan, here are some resources. Do you need to call the library? Do you need help finding a therapist? This is all part of what I do that is just community work. This isn't even what makes the money for my home.
Right.
Right. That's
And so, but it's integrated because it does come home too.
Right. Right. So, w- taking all of that and segueing just a little bit, tell us about what's important to you, because you mentioned activism. So I'm not sure if that's a big part or if there's more
mm,
that is very important to you, but I'd love to hear that.
So I joke that I am a subversive activist. So a lot of people like to do the picket lines, and that does have its place. I like to take the rules and teach people malicious compliance.
mm,
Okay.
So for those unfamiliar, it's taking the rules and making you regret making them ever. My kids are a little too good at it, and they're still learning from me and
okay.
Cynthia a lot. But I know it's going to backfire, but it's a good life skill. What I
Mhm.
like to tell people about my book, Urban Magic, is what that really is the source codes to power structures as we know them. It's
Mm.
just written between the lines.
Yes.
And the moment you go out and start doing that magic, you start seeing, because architecture itself is an occult art.
Mhm.
Like
Mhm.
architecture, urban design, all of it is designed to make you feel and behave a certain way, and
Right.
even be afraid to move or be hyperactive depending on how it's been designed. And these are conscious design principles
Mhm.
that you
Mhm.
can leverage for magic or subvert. So you can, let's say there's a place where they don't like people taking that unhoused people taking naps. And so they've set up several different things to make that difficult.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
one, you can deliberately take that energy. So one, you can use tactical urbanism, which is physical things you can do, like cutting out those dividers and benches, or a little. I am not promoting illegal activity, but nonviolent protest and
Mhm.
civil
Mhm.
disobedience is a grand tradition that I very much admire and support.
Okay.
Okay.
I just try not to get caught, especially if you're a vulnerable community. Um, but
Mhm.
you can do those things. You can also work magic to go, hey, I am just very comfy on this side of the bench, or making it super uncomfortable for the people they want hanging out there.
Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
There are
Mhm.
things you can do, like just charging something to have a completely different mood from the intent, or taking that intent and having it work for the person that made it instead of the person it's aimed at.
Right.
Like,
So I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's okay. I
I
just
no,
was just going to say, so what I'm hearing, a lot of what I'm hearing is, though, it's very tied to community. It's work
yes,
within the community, whether it's
yes.
San Francisco or Kalamazoo, where you're at right now. And that really, that's one of our questions that we like to ask here is, what is that? What is the work, or what are your thoughts about the work that, I'm going to use the word pagans, that pagans have within community right now? And you're speaking a lot to the work that you're
about that.
doing
Yeah.
at the center. Is there a primary, is there a, I heard, for example, INS, or people who are looking for
Yeah. Yeah.
resources because they may
Immigration.
be, new to the country, and they're trying to get on their feet and get stable. Are there particular community groups or areas, or focuses that you really want to hone in, if not now, perhaps at some future date?
Yeah.
That's a good question because, again, I work very much with who comes to me.
Okay.
So it is what portion of the community happens to call me.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so something that, especially because I lived in Minneapolis for 12 years, a lot of people think it's like a two-horse town. It is not. It is a deeply diverse place that parallels New York City in a lot of ways. And and one of the things that kind of drove me crazy, because it does have a lot of, at the time it was subconscious white supremacy. I understand the subconscious part has gone. But I would run into some stuff in the pagan communities where, my next door neighbors were frequently Muslim from Somalia, from Iraq, from so on, to the point where, like, I would check when Ramadan was just to make sure I gave them a break because I knew they could smell my bacon in the morning.
Right.
So, and they would like warn me when the rose water was going to be incoming because it would take up the whole hallway. Like,
Wow.
but I was one of the only people in the pagan community willing to interact outside of it.
Interesting.
And I remember having this conversation, and this probably comes back to, when I was in graduate school, I worked for an international student office right when 9/11 happened. I kind of had a learning curveball that kept me going for a long time.
Yeah.
But that meant that these people that were it was my job to talk to these people and get to know these people that are completely different from myself. And it became very clear that these are the neighbors that Jesus was talking about. These are the neighbors we need to know. These are our community too, even if they don't practice the same religion.
Yes.
And it is, unless you've got a really unhealthily competitive mindset, it's not an issue.
Right.
And so I was running into this, and then I was going to like a pagan pride where they had like an Ask the Pagan booth, and like we jokingly had the pagan cage where people could come and ask. And I sat with this woman who's going on about this paper she wrote about women in Islam and how fascinating it was. And I looked at her and I went, so who did you interview? What? Who did you talk to that's a practicing Muslim?
Wow.
Not a single person. It was just all stuff from books, mostly written by white men.
Wow.
I remind you of when the remember when they said back in the day with the Druids, nothing was written ever by the Druids. It was by the Romans and everybody else watching and observing them, not even closely, but from afar, and wrote their books about it. And this is what they did, and this is what they did. And I'm like, are you kidding me? In this day and age, you cannot ask them the question. Interview them. Wow. And the fact that you did you read the book? Is that what it was?
It was one of the books I read. It was I don't remember the specific one she was quoting. I remember talking to a friend about it who happened to be a practicing Muslim.
Yes.
And she was just horrified by that book. It's sort of like a lot of books written by whites and indigenous people.
Wow.
Where it's one stereotype after another. And and nobody thinks to question it because everybody thinks that's the default.
This is what I mean about authors and books. Like, research your things so you can have an original thought, or speak to the people. Just a simple thing. Speak to the people. They're right there.
Exactly.
My thing is, question your lived experience because you're not the only one living right now.
Precisely. So that's a really interesting, and thank you for sharing that about the work that you're doing within that community. Within the community.
So what would you like to see us as witches accomplish?
Oh, that is a very good question. I think equanimity would be a good long-term goal because there's a lot of squabbles that don't need to be squabbles.
Yeah.
Truth.
I think that coming down to the creating a scale of, is someone's life in danger? Which is where a lot of the trads had to build their stuff around, because even in this day and age, sometimes lives are in danger and that privacy can matter.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to I decide who's legitimate and not, no, you don't.
No.
Yeah, right.
It does not matter who you are not the one who gets to decide who's legitimate.
Exactly.
Well said.
Like what I used to say when I was Christian was, ain't nobody going to know till we're dead.
That's it. I mean, that's a huge thing. That is fabulous. So tell us more about some of the projects you have going on. What are some of the things that you're thinking about or working on, or what's coming up?
So the project that I'm writing, and I've been doing like a Witch Writes Daily TikTok just to keep myself accountable to somebody. I am working on an urban magic workbook so that you can, because I know a lot of people kind of got the last one and they're starting, like people have come back and reread it and gone, oh, and had it click finally. But this is the step-by-step, okay, go to the statue and do this thing, or hi, go meet your library, because library historical tourism, you can find the coolest, most scandalous stuff if you just learn how to look for it.
Yes.
And most librarians are going to be happy to help you.
Wow.
But it's the go out and do this small thing, go out and do this small thing, go out and make this animistic connection, since animism is one of the, like, unless you're an absolute hardcore atheist, animism, where you're just assuming everything has an awareness, tends to at least not conflict with most other religions.
Right.
And so that's like one of the ways where if I need to bring in the way I do things, the animism is usually the most graceful way to connect and keep people connected to the traditions that are important to them.
Excellent.
And so teaching that, I'm going to discourage, for just based on my own experience, I am going to discourage people from working too directly with river spirits, because water spirits tend to be a little unhinged and dangerous. I had an experience last year. I was training. There is someone who's coming up as a city priestess in Kalamazoo, and I've been training her. And she has this teeny tiny little thing without a lot of body strength. And again, this is urban magic. It still gets physical.
Yeah.
And so she decided that she had this calling to go pray on this stump, and I'm just like kind of questioning it, but it's her intuition. Okay. And I'm glad I went ahead of her, because it would have been a much bigger problem. And I stepped and just sank right up to my hips when the land
My
was
goodness.
otherwise dry. Like, it was a dry day, and there was a sinkhole right there. And this is just a way a river says hello when it likes you.
Yeah.
There have been more dangerous things that have happened to me before working with rivers.
Wow.
The Mississippi. Fortunately, I lift weights and was able to pull myself out just fine, but she's a teeny tiny thing, and we would have had to go get one of the construction workers that just happened to be gathering in the lot for lunch that day for no damn reason.
At least that
Timing is
was a break up
everything.
nearby. That's awesome.
Exactly.
There was
But
backup.
you do have
I
to be
appreciated
careful.
that.
You do have to be careful.
Very.
So what
Yeah.
events are you doing that's coming up this year or within next year?
Next month, I am doing the online Somot.con.
Yes.
And I am also doing WitchCon again, which I really enjoy. There's so much good stuff there. It's such a great community around that.
Yes.
And I also got invited back again to be a featured presenter at Convocation, which is kind of wonderful, since that's kind of my anniversary with Cinti.
Fabulous. Congratulations on that. Now, when are these events? So I know, tell us the dates if you have them relatively.
So, Somot.con is October 13th and 14th.
Okay.
I'm going to like pull up my little thing so I can see it myself, because dates occasionally get scrambled around here. We're an ADHD house, and
I understand you there.
I swear it is catching. Okay, so let's see. Okay, that's the classes I'm teaching. And then February 17th and 18th is WitchCon.
Right.
Excellent.
So doing that one as well. Yeah,
which I believe overlaps with Convocation, but I'll figure it out. I only ever teach one class at WitchCon. I'm also teaching a series with Wicked Grounds. And they have unfortunately had to move to a primarily online space, but hopefully they'll get their stuff back eventually. So next week on Thursday, I am teaching magical strategies for times of war. And this is an urban magic class. And I'm not just going with the literal tanks are rolling in kind of war, although that is there too. It is the we're in a culture war. If you are LGBTQ+, what are some things that you can do? If your HOA goes at you, here are some things you can do, because malicious compliance is definitely made for homeowners associations. But
right on. Wow.
These are some of the things. And then to cap out my year, because usually I was doing a September rolling through October teaching. For October, I'm going to be teaching Healing Land and City After Times of Crisis, because we need it.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
They sound like very powerful. And we're scrolling your website at the bottom of the screen right now also.
Which I need updates.
Okay, so where should people find you? Let's make certain, if this is not the correct one, where should people find you?
So your best bet is the website. If they want to contact me directly, there is something. It goes straight to my email, or it will go to Cinti or to whoever's helping me out stay organized as much as I can be. The other easy way, because it's a little bit faster and easier to update, part of this is just wrestling with Squarespace.
Yes.
is if you go to my Instagram, which is drachel, Drajchel, and you just go to my bio link there, that I keep up
Okay.
to date pretty well.
Perfect. So
So
D
yeah,
Rachel R-A. Okay, perfect. R
yeah,
Drajchel
yes. So
on
Drachel,
Instagram.
yeah, yeah.
Perfect.
Awesome. Awesome.
Perfect. Cannot thank you enough. This has been
Yeah.
really
Thank
interesting.
you.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much for making the time to sit with us
So
tonight. We
happy
really
to have you here
appreciate
with
it.
us. Yes.
Yes, thank you for having me. This was fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
And a
So,
word from our sponsors.
all right. All right. So we have some things to come in with you guys about the Virgo new moon that we had yesterday. That is still playing out some of our parts of our sky or cosmos, and it's
Yes.
also the foundation point for the coming months. So we can use its energy to think about our goals, our intentions, and what we wish to cultivate as we make our way to the finish line of 2023. So it's going to play out for a while. The Virgo new moon skies are quite busy. It began last night, but with six major planets in retrograde, and with all of this strong retrograde energy combined, it may have us looking back to our recent past, making sure we fully understand what occurred before we can move forward. And with so many planets traveling retrograde, we may feel that life or certain situations have come to a complete standstill. It may even seem hard to move on or where to shift to next. We may have to sit in the muck a bit longer before we can see the way forward.
Hmm.
What have you
Yeah.
think, Rhonda?
So, yeah, this Virgo new moon is preparing us for changes ahead. So, because the Virgo new moon is the last new moon before the equinox and before eclipse season begins, it will set the foundation for the changes that are destined to come. We will still feel the stagnancy from all the retrograde activity. This new moon will act as a turning point, lighting a path to help release us from the past or old things that no longer serves us. It will be a welcome relief to be stuck. It will become a welcome relief from that stuck or stagnant moment we've been in as we treat it as a resting period for what's to come next. Giving us time to enjoy the view a little longer will allow the changing energies to slowly reveal themselves, helping us to feel more adjusted, better prepared, and more accepting of our situation and where we will next move. What we'll next move to.
And Virgo is that being that grounded earth sign represented by the Virgin goddess who symbolizes wholeness, inner divinity, and sovereignty. The Virgin goddess who rules Virgo is not attracted to anyone, or not, I shouldn't say attracted, not attached to anyone. She is in charge of her own life and fully connected to divine power that lives within herself. This goddess will allow us to use her energies to guide us through this new moon and serves as a reminder that everything we need is within us. No matter what happens, the Virgin Goddess knows she will be okay, and so will we. She knows that she and we will find the strength, the wisdom, and the knowledge to move through whatever comes our way. On a more practical level, we can also channel the energies of this Virgo new moon to plan better, create a schedule, and get organized in our lives. And using this moon's energy to take a more methodical and practical approach to all that we need to get done.
Excellent. So the cosmic skies at play under the Virgo new moon. Lots of things happening. Uranus, the planet of awakening and change, is very active under this new moon as well. So it's adding a layer of instability or shakiness to these energies, and we may feel a little rattled or unsure of the future. This uncertainty will eventually spark an awakening, but chances are we won't feel able to we won't be able to feel the full presence of this awakening energy just yet, and that's okay. It may take a little time. Along with Uranus, Neptune, the planet of dreams and illusions, is also active and retrograde under this new moon. So, Neptune's presence can create a little fogginess in the brain, but will also allow us to listen to our inner wisdom. If we don't understand or can't make sense of our outside world, it's great timing for us to go within and get clarity with our inner world.
All right. And to add to the
Mhm.
mix, Mercury ended its retrograde journey after the peak of the new moon around 10 p.m. last night. And Mercury is considered the messenger of the gods. So pay attention to any messages that seem to come your way around this time. Chances are that the messages we receive may have some extra magic or importance to them. So pay close attention to all that is coming to you and write down your dreams, your thoughts, ideas, or anything that comes to you throughout this time. Even what you dream about. When you wake up, write down whatever you remember. The Virgo
Mhm.
new moon energies plays out. So that moon combined energies, though not incredibly intense, we may feel a little scattered and confused. But if you work with the grounding energies of the Virgin Goddess, we will find our way out of it.
Excellent. She, the Virgin Goddess, will remind us that we are sovereign beings, free to be, free to express, and with a wealth of knowledge contained within. So when we connect with this rich, earthy energy, we will feel more balanced, more guided, and more supported as we journey through this Virgo lunar cycle. To work with the incredible manifestation energies being offered to us at this time, it's really time to work with it. Here's a way to do it. Write in a journal and aim to write for about 15 or 20 minutes and make sure to see it through to the end. Here are 4 prompts you can work with. Prompt 1: for the next 4 months, I wish to cultivate, and write what comes to you. Prompt 2: my focus moving forward is, and write that. Prompt 3: my vision for the remainder of 2023 is, write. And prompt 4: I can create more ease by, and continue writing. So those 4 prompts can help you. Journaling is I love journaling and something that you can work with, and it really is a helpful tool. So work with those 4.
Yeah.
Awesome. All righty. So next we need to move on to the cards.
All right. All right. So the card that we're going to pull tonight is one card. And yes, it's going to deal with the Virgo new moon. But since this Virgo new moon is going to set the foundation for the coming months, all the way through to the end of 2023, and not just the witches' end of the new year, but the calendar or Gregorian calendar end of the new year. So in December, see what pull a card and that will kind of guide you as to how it will play out for you throughout this time. And also it pertains to that prompt that Rhonda just gave you, the 4 prompts. Whatever it is that you write about, it will kind of play into that as well. So I want you guys to also pull a card for yourself to do that. But we will pull a card
Mhm.
now as well and see what comes up.
Excellent. Excellent. This Virgo new moon.
And
Hmm.
that virgin goddess. And again, she's letting you know the word virgin is not what people think about in the modern day times. It is that part about independence and being their own self and owning their own sovereignty of who they are. That's what the word virgin really means. Okay. So a lot of that will play into it, okay? All right. So
I've already pulled my card, Star. I've already pulled it.
Oh wow. Okay,
It's
so
a
what you got, girl?
Major
What have you
Arcana,
got?
and
What
I
you got?
have the Wheel of Fortune. The Wheel of
Oh
Fortune,
my gosh,
which is
that's a good one.
which is it's a fabulous card. I'm working with the Wiser Tarot. This is the deck I'm working with tonight, and this deck is seen. It's been well worn. I'm just going to say that. But the one thing I'm going to show. So this is based on Pamela Coleman Smith work. Of course, the colors are a little different. It's a Wiser version, and those four figures, those are the four fixed signs of the zodiac in the corners, right? And they're all each one with a book. So they're each doing, what are we talking about? Journaling, but they're each working with books. So they're still in the process of identifying, working, studying, learning, gleaning. There's information that's still happening because the wheel is still spinning. Things are not fully settled yet. There's still work to do. Opportunity, yes, that is part of the Wheel of Fortune. We understand that, but it is about the continuation of growth. I'm going to use that language. The wheel can mean many, 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 many things, but I'm using this card and saying, okay, this Virgo new moon and looking at those prompts, those four prompts again for the next 4 months, I wish to cultivate what? My focus moving forward is what? My vision for the remainder of 2023 is what? I can create more ease by what? Those four prompts, and I have these four figures. I'm just using the literal symbols
Right,
that I see on this
right.
card and saying, yeah, there's the four fixed signs of the zodiac relating to the four sign, earth, air, fire, water. Where's your passion? Where's your love? Where's your intellect? Where's your head at? And what are you going to manifest? Those are the areas that you need to focus on, and that's what I'll be journaling when I move forward with this work.
All right. So I got this is my Witches Tarot deck from with Ellen Dugan. I
Mm,
love this deck. As per usual, I'm always using this deck. And this is the Five of Cups. Isn't that beautiful? That
interesting.
is a
Right on.
beautiful card. And the cups are, oh, I call them, I was about to say chalices, but you know what I mean. The
Yes.
cups are all
I'm a challenge.
let's see. Three of them is like if they spilled over, and two of them are standing up. And she is a beautiful mermaid. Um, and there is a horse or a horse's head right here, and that arc of to me of hope of in the background there. And to me, this card is very apropos in the sense of there is a lot of offerings, but at the same time, she's kind of saying, I'm thanking you guys for the offering, but I want to kind of look in within myself to get some things that I want from
Mhm,
myself. I want to see what I have to offer myself. I know I have
mhm.
a lot of wisdom. So before I make these choices or whatever, um, you know, I'm going to set aside those offerings and I'm going to work within myself first before I make decisions with it. She's kind of grounded. She's reaching for the water. She's that mermaid, but she's like that horse is there, and she can shift and she can do any many things that she wants to do, and she's seeing that a lot of it. Like if you look at her, she's all closed in there. So in a way, she's kind of really pulling within herself, garner
Mm.
that shadow work, that inner part of herself. And she's saying, work within yourself and see what you have to offer as well. What do you have as a wisdom for yourself? And claim sovereignty for yourself.
Beautiful.
All
I'm gonna
and bring in all of that more energy. I'd love to have any additional thoughts you thought on it.
I just love here's the thing that I love about what you just said, and sometimes, and myself included as a reader, I looking at that 5 of cups when we see it, and we say, "Oh, okay, so there's loss and there's, you know."
Yes, there's lots.
But at the same time, it's water.
Yes,
So we're speaking about the intuitive piece. We're speaking about the inward. We're
yes,
speaking
yeah,
about those deep areas within. And that's a really interesting piece that we also need to really remember
yeah.
when we look at that card. So
Yeah,
I'm glad you brought
and
that up.
and she
I'm glad
and
that
the
that
three
came up
cups
when you
did
read
spill
that.
on the side, and two of them were
Yeah,
standing up, and she's like, "That's okay. It's all good because I've got the rest inside of me, and I could make whatever
exactly.
that's there work for me because I'll prepare myself. I will make it work, and I will schedule myself and get things going." And again, going
Yeah.
back to that, those prompts, make it work for you. Focus on
Yes.
it. Don't just make
Hmm.
rash decisions. It's giving you time to remember. It said throughout one part of it, it said making you sit in the muck a bit. Sit there.
Yes. Yeah,
Give
it
you that
is.
time to enjoy the view and take in things the way they are, and allow
Yes.
things to play itself out, and then go, okay, I know how to
Yeah,
play that like a chess move. Only thing is, you're playing
exactly so.
3D chess.
Exactly so. Well
All
done.
right.
Well said. Love
Okay.
it. Love
So I
it.
love the way that the
So,
cards play out. Okay.
as per the usual, and I hope everybody who is if you're actually pulling cards, journal them,
Yes.
keep track of
Yes.
them,
Yes.
come back to them
Yeah.
later. That would be
And see
fabulous.
how it plays out for you with the prompts and everything else that you heard. Okay. All
Yes.
right. And please do join us on Friday, September 22nd at 10 p.m. Eastern for our next guest, Jade Aurora.
Yes.
And don't forget to check out all of our new shows. You saw the clip that Rhonda played for us earlier about it. If you want, you can play it again, Rhonda.
Yes. I'll play it again. We'll play it again.
All right. And we want to make
So,
sure to thank our guest, Diana Rochelle. And for all of you that were here with us tonight, we want to thank you all. And please don't forget to check out Diana's links that she has, her website, and anything else. She has a lot of great insights. And again, don't forget to what?
like and subscribe
To us
and
on YouTube
share
and
and
share. Yes,
share.
yes, yes. On
Absolutely.
Facebook, on YouTube, and whatever else. And we would love to see you again the next week.
Yes, and thank you again, Diana. It was great having you. We really
Yay!
appreciate you making the time. Thank you, everyone, for joining us again this week. We will
Yes.
be back here next Friday, and have a good week. Until then,
Yay!
yay.